Hi, everybody. It's good to see everyone. Let me bring my comments up. I've been trying to fix the audio on my streams. I know that my voice has been very low and the videos have been very loud. So I did some tweaks and I'm hoping that the tweaks fix the problem. Hello, everybody. Beth, Raven. Who else is in here? Of course, my beloved crocheter, Cheryl and Gata and Beth and Raven and my beloved No Name. It's good to see everybody. So, today we've got a whole range of topics to discuss. I was bitching to Crocheter earlier that I was looking for a topic, and hi Rosie, and I thought, okay, I can't like zoom in on one in particular, but I've got a bunch. So, I guess that I have not seen the Ryan Hilton case, Rosalind. Or maybe I have. Refresh my memory. It's not ringing a bell, but that doesn't mean anything. So, I thought that we would get started. Hi, Joe. I thought we would get started with Hecate today. Now, this is what I'm going to say, okay? I will point out that there are a handful of people who have made it abundantly clear that they don't give a shit that I have cancer or that I was in an accident, and they are going to continue going full force. There's Hecate, there's Russ. AK said that this was my karma, and Christina is here said that I need to self-reflect. What am I supposed to self-reflect about? I've had a recurrence of cancer. I'm not sure what I was supposed to do to avoid this after being in remission for 11 years, but what do all those people have in common? What do all those people have in common? Well, I'll let the chat decide what all those people have in common. Now, here's what I have to say about Hecate. Hecate has a number of problems, okay? Hecate doesn't do any research. Hecate allows people to tell her what's going on instead of doing research on her own. And she turns to some very unreliable people. Oh yeah, Rosalind, I am familiar with that. Maybe I will talk about it tomorrow. Negz may talk about it later because he was actually chatting with me about it this morning, but he didn't mention the name, so that's why the name didn't ring a bell. Okay, so she doesn't do any research. She lies. She is extremely reactive. She streams for days at a time without getting any sleep. Which means, and she's also under the influence either of alcohol or Adderall or drugs or Vyvanse or whatever. And so she says off-the-wall stuff, and then she either forgets that she said it, or she denies that she said it. And I think that more and more people are starting to take notice of this. She has picked fights with so many people at this point that I wonder at what point her pool of opponents is going to start dwindling. She has shown that she has no problem smearing people that she doesn't know, lying about people that she doesn't know, going after people that she doesn't know. And I have a problem with this. I have a real problem with it because she has turned into the loudspeaker for a lot of people with a lot of grudges. And like I said, she doesn't check anything. So I think that she is headed in a very, very bad direction. All that combination of factors is going to end up backfiring on her. And it's not a question of when, or it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I understand that I don't watch her streams, but I understand that the other night she got very, very angry at Kiwi Farms, and she's starting to try to pick a fight with Strawberry Douche. I don't know why. How very AK of you, Hecate. And apparently, she has suddenly realized that information that she has relied on as truth was either information that was shared by people who didn't know all the facts or by shitposters. And she has become convinced that Strawberry Douche is now like sweeping for me and for Negz. No. The reason that Strawberry Douche got so angry at Fresh Garbage was because Fresh Garbage went after No Name, which she made abundantly clear both in my comments section and in Anna's comments section. And Anna has uploaded that disgraceful almost 6-hour stream that she did, that she then privated. And I got a chance to listen to the whole thing, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And I know that she's apologized many times. I do not trust the sincerity of her apology. And I also happen to notice, some of Hecate's comments during that stream. And how she had a problem with No Name. Yes, I remember when you had a problem with No Name. It was when you decided, Hecate, to go into our streams and notice that No Name was in our streams and that she was donating to me. And you went on stream and said, I don't think she's racist. But apparently that's a problem for you. You go into people's streams, you pocket watch, and then you decide to smear people based on their associations. And you do that a lot. And you did that to No Name a while ago. And somebody in Fresh Garbage's chat was like, oh, this isn't the first time that No Name has been accused of being a racist. Yeah, it was in Hecate's community. I knew that. And to then go after No Name's husband because he called you Satan, Fresh Garbage? Come on now. I know that we've discussed this topic to death. But it's absurd. It's absurd. And Fresh Garbage reminds me a lot of Russ. She goes out there, she runs her mouth. She says things that are not true. She says things that are inflammatory. And then when people criticize her or when people try to correct her, she does that nervous little giggle and insists that, oh, it doesn't matter anyway. It's not important. It's only the internet. What's the big deal? That's exactly what Russ does. And in both cases, they're lying. They care very, very much. And like I said, the reason that I'm taking this No Name thing so personally is because it reminds me exactly of what was done to Dee Higgins by a lot of people. And I take that kind of thing very, very seriously. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. And I don't appreciate people's families being targeted. Whether they appear on panel or not, whether they chat or not, makes absolutely no difference. And Fresh Garbage targets people's families, as does Hecate. And I am going to show you an example. Now, I want to remind you that this is the person that Peanut said was like a breath of fresh air. Hecate. Hecate, who lies. Hecate, who smears people. Thank you, Karma. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I am, and again, I'm not, how can I explain this? I don't like it when content creators gang up on viewers. Viewers, I mean, if a viewer is causing fuck shit, that is one thing. If a viewer is being a problem, that's one thing. If a viewer is just in chat or donating or whatever, and they're pleasant in all of the chats, and they're always a welcome addition to all of the chats, and they're not hurting anyone, then I have a problem. And so, like I said, No Name, you remind me so much of Dee, who also has a husband, or she has a husband with health problems. And so the similarities are there. She's older than you are, but it's the same principle. And it infuriates me. Absolutely infuriates me. So, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this.
I will ask them what my options are.
To a CPS call to
and I will ask what I can do about slander.
Okay, well, first of all, the police aren't the ones, like I said, who come to a CPS call. 2, CPS is not allowed to tell who made the call, so you wouldn't be able to sue them for slander. So, but do you?
I will do everything in my possible and work with the police.
Why do people keep saying I called CPS on Isaac Guest? Because I said if I knew his kids were being abused, I would call, and that if I didn't have evidence, but I knew for sure, I would lie. That doesn't mean I called them. If I know for sure that a child's being abused, I would lie, yeah. So I said 100%, I know for sure, I would lie.
Okay, so there's another clip that I don't have where she said that if she knew in her head that a child was being abused, you know, the same head where she hears voices, she would call CPS. Yeah, I was looking through that BBW Veronica stream, and I was looking for that clip, and I could not find it. I was going crazy trying to find it, and I think that that's the clip I'm speaking of. So if you knew for sure that a child was being abused, why would you have to lie to CPS? Why would you have to do that? So here you go, Peanut. Here's your breath of fresh air. She has no problem going IRL. Okay. She has no problem lying to CPS. I thought that we frowned on that sort of thing around here. Thank you, Anna. And she's a liar. Either that or her brain is so foggy because of lack of sleep and because of whatever substance she's intoxicated on at the moment, that she will literally say and do anything if she doesn't like someone. And that is a problem. That is a problem. But there's your breath of fresh air, guys. Breathe in deeply. But I'm not done with that. Okay. So Hecate has gotten into the habit of collecting weirdos on the internet that she thinks are being done hard by. So she collected Russ that way. And of course, there's always the enemy of my enemy factor with this one. And she defends him, and her minions defend him. And one of the other people that she has decided that she's going to stick up for is this guy S-Jam, who used to be a Beezer. S-Jam is a terrible alcoholic. He's been a drunk for years. He can't work. And there are groups of people who go into his chat and they poke at him. Now, I noticed they had Kate. As far as I know, I don't watch her, but you guys can tell me. Monty went on panel with SJam recently, and SJam was waving around a stuffed gorilla that he said was named Monty, and he was being incredibly racist. I don't know if Hecate commented on that. I don't know if she said anything about that, but one would think that somebody with her delicately attuned sense for racism would probably have something to say about it. But anyway, okay, see, this is the other thing. I don't think that Hecate understands that at this point, a lot of the people who watch her are there to watch a train wreck. They're not there because they believe her. They're not there because they co-sign what she's saying or that she's a reliable narrator. They're there because she is a mess. A mess, especially as she gets closer to the ends of her streams. And like I said, she will believe anything that anyone tells her. Anything. I think that most of you have seen. Yeah, exactly. I think that most of you have seen, because I've shared it, a bunch of people have shared it. It's an old Strawberry Douche post on Kiwi Farms where she drops the N-bomb like 30 times in a post, maybe 20. Maybe I'm exaggerating. And Hecate put that screenshot up on her channel and said, oh, but I heard that Strawberry Douche was black, so... Okay. That's news to me. I don't believe that Strawberry Douche is black. But now she hates Strawberry Douche because Douche is being fair. Okay? And because Douche has no time for people who go after nice viewers for no reason, which both Hecate and Fresh Garbage have done. So, but you see what I mean? You thought Strawberry Douche was black? Who told you that? Who told you that? And you just believe them. Okay. Anyway. And that's funny because I was listening to a Belinda stream one time, and she said that Strawberry Douche was in Hawaii. Now, I don't know if that means that Douche lives in Hawaii, or she was in vacation in Hawaii, or if Belinda was bullshitting. I have no idea. Well, hello there, detective. It is good to see you. So anyway, so there's a group of people who have been going into SJam's chats and poking at him. And Hecate got it into her pea-brain that these people were trafficking SJam. Now, I don't think that Hecate understands what trafficking is because it's not the first time that she has misused the word trafficking and used it as a way to describe an activity that is not happening. But let me show you. She has gone to war with these people called Papa Kilo, Ariel, and Barney. I don't know anything about them. I seem to remember that there was an Ariel who used to go into Monty's chat, and I think he had a problem with her. But maybe it's a different Ariel. I don't know. I don't know who these people are. All these people that she has beef with now, right? Yeah. Exactly. Well, I'll post a link to that stream in my community tab, no name, so that more people have access to it. I know that it was in Anna's comment section, so a lot of people missed it. But anyway, so she has gone to war with them because she is convinced, for some reason, maybe the voices in her head, told her that they are trying to traffic SJam. No, they go in there and they troll him. That's it. So this channel is called, hang on. It's called Hazelnut Vanilla Frappuccino. I'm going to put the link to this video in chat so we can see how this woman operates. Okay. Now, let's go. Let's hear what she said about Papa Kilo, Ariel, and Barney.
Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Yo, there's literally like a sex fucking cult in the goddamn Discord.
There's a sex cult in the Discord. A sex cult in the Discord. Which Discord is this? Where is there a sex cult? Do you have any proof that there's a sex cult? Is there any evidence? No? Okay, let's continue.
In Discord, in a girl world. And she was not lying. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to that girl. Fatty fangirl is not crazy. She just doesn't know how to express herself.
What?
Well, now.
Hey, Anna, would you mind dropping those links in chat? I'll put them up on my community tab later, and also put a link to your Rumble channel, please. Thank you. That would be great. That way, if people want to watch that train wreck and then the follow-up stream that Fresh Garbage did, they can do so as soon as this chat uploads. Unlike Hecate, I don't disable my chat when the stream is uploaded once it's done. So
I gotta have a phone call. I have to have a talk with SJam now because I think that you might have been trafficking him. Look.
Oh, they were trafficking him. Now, later on, Yato went on her stream and she denied that she said that SJam was being trafficked. And because Yato wouldn't back down, she started insulting his family. She started getting gross with him. She started calling him names. And look, I'm not Yato's biggest fan, but that's not the point. There's a matter of principle here. You did say it, Hecate, and you said it more than once. And you never provided any proof. When you accuse these people of committing a serious crime. Let's continue.
I never said trafficking SJam, did I?
Oh, there we go.
I mean, might be trafficking. Do you guys listen? I'm not about to explain to the likes of any of you. If you want to learn what things are, go fucking learn it. I'm over here collecting some serious dark ass receipts, and you can't gaslight me. So fuck y'all. You think it's a coincidence he names this stream 75% tariffs on SJam's channel? You think that's a coincidence? You fucking retards. Gut Boy starts coming back out of nowhere. Who has the password for that channel? Now I understand why Fatty Fangirl felt this way. Okay, so this is Yaya. And he was doxxed. There's literally, you guys are actually sex trafficking SJam.
You guys are literally sex trafficking FJam. That's what she said. Literally sex trafficking SJam. Can you guys feel the fresh air in the room? So much fresh air. Such a breath of fresh air, right? Let's continue.
Oh my God.
Call the police. We need to call the police.
Why are you all in here if I'm insane and I'm wrong? And why is Lux telling me I have all these things to send you? It's a cult. It's a cult. But guess what? You're fucked now.
Uh-oh.
I literally just figured it all out. Boy, I'm so fucking pissed.
I'm nodding like I understand, but I'm not so sure I do.
The internet is just for predators. Bally, why the fuck were you all up in SJam's goddamn asshole? Were you a part of it? No wonder there was free SJam hashtag in the fucking chat. I need SJam's phone number, Keek's phone number. Anybody? I'm like getting overwhelmed with what's been going on. Now, why would you post this?
Okay, so there's a conspiracy involving Papa Kilo, Ariel, Barney, and now Bally is involved. Maybe. And the free SJam hashtag obviously has to do with this. This is like Pizzagate, you guys. This is like Pizzagate. I swear to God. You know, where cheese pizza in emails or in messages stands for CP. Get it? So Hecate seems to have gone QAnon. Let's go.
Photo on Instagram. What are you selling him?
I mean, what the fuck? Can I live? Can I live? Can I fucking live?
Why is he moving suddenly and to a building manager's home? I hope those two are actually. Who's Keeks? And she don't want to come on camera. Is you know Keeks?
Keeks is SJam's girlfriend.
Now I got to question everything and everyone. You're all fucking weirdos. Okay, hold on. First I said SJam, you didn't lose your place. Why are you doing this, SJam? But you didn't. You had an N4. Did you go to court? Because you need to get the fuck away from you all. Papa Kilo, are you a pimp? I need to go ask questions.
Are you a
pimp?
pimp?
If you're listening, I'm gonna hold off on something. I need you to help me with some stuff, okay, Hurl? It's time for you to redeem yourself and stop being a cunt.
So she's turning to Hurl World, who's in the bodega, because I guess she wants some doxing done or some investigation done. And, I mean, not so long ago, Osria was going after Hurl World very, very hard. But now you can redeem yourself by providing information on, I don't know, these three people. I don't know. I mean, this woman has gone after everybody. She's going after BBW Veronica. I still don't know why. She's gone after Ricky Mork for some reason. Basically, anybody who disagrees with her is a target and is going to get called out or accused of doing God only knows what. So let's keep going.
I don't know if SJam is running away and feels safe with Kiki or if this is all a part of the plan and he's just fucked up. Why is the Discord blow up like that? Why is someone saying there's trafficking going on in there? Why has Jessica suddenly stopped reacting and keeping Soda Girl War? Why is Jessica's old Discord name on Papa Kilo's thumbnail on his channel?
Oh, so now Jessica Messica is involved. Possibly. I'm telling you, this is like, again, it's like that Beautiful Mind scenario. She believes everything that people tell her. Everything. Unquestioningly. And then she gets loaded. She goes on stream for days. And she just spins out these yarns. That's why you have an audience, Hecate, because you are out of your fucking mind. People are there because you are a cow, Hecate. You're a cow. Let's continue.
And it's all making sense to me now. So what are you holding over Jessica's head? That's what I'd love to know.
Oh, so Jessica Messica is being blackmailed by somebody? Okay.
9 months, 9 months, 9 months, 9 months. 9, 8, 8, 8, 7. Huh. You were enticing him with money, rent, whatever. And then you were getting him drunk so much that he ended up losing employment.
Mm-hmm.
So he went online and then you enticed him to make gut boy content out of nowhere for just things like that.
That's inaccurate.
You were controlling him.
Controlling him?
Was up for what, 2 weeks and he wasn't tired apparently. It's just weird shit that's been going on. And then all of a sudden he feels the need that he has to go and make gut boy content. Yeah, because, you know, you guys are draining him. And he lost.
Oh, I see. So they're draining him somehow. But okay.
His job and you're controlling him and you're earning profits from his channel. You trafficked him.
Oh, now they're taking money from him. Zero evidence for this, by the way. Zero evidence. And they're trafficking him. And maybe Jessica Messica and Bally are involved in this. Okay.
know what you guys are doing.
That doesn't make no sense. My man.
Anyway, now there's another Gut Boy channel. Do you understand that? So you can either shut the fuck up or I'm going to put you on my list to look at.
How many people were scared? Me too.
Not look
I was
at.
really, really scared.
Oh shit, the lid cracked.
Gaslight little bitches. I just don't know if Kiki's his girlfriend or like a piece of shit. I can't tell. Who the fuck
She's his girlfriend.
is Flophouse? Oh God, what is this? Why are people? Oh my God, y'all are weird. The black guy, Yaya was a Gut Boy client. Why'd you guys dox him? I'm just literally asking questions.
I don't know who Yaya is, and I don't care.
Whatever. I'm trying to figure out who Katie Middle Child is. Katie Middle Child. Have you been doxxed, S-Jam? I'm looking for Katie as your sister.
Bitch, S-Jam has his own Kiwi Farms thread. Yeah, okay. I think that he was doxxed ages ago. And all this nonsense about how they're controlling him and making him drink. No, he's an alcoholic. And he has been for a while. And the reason that S-Jam popped up on everybody's radar is because he used to be in Foodie Beauty's community. And then one day he decided to show up at the villa, which left a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouths. The guy is a mess, okay? But he's not a trafficking victim.
Really weird username to only be in the chat. I don't understand. Who the fuck is Tyler? Katie Middle.
I'm so sorry, Scarlett. I'm so sorry to hear that. God only knows what's going to happen. Oh, and now that she sees you in my chat, well, you know what that means. She's going to have to put up another yarn string on her beautiful mind board. You see, all the connections are so obvious now, right? They're all so obvious. Wow. Okay. So now I'm involved. Maybe I'm trafficking S-Jam. So are we all involved in this scheme, in this conspiracy? I don't know. Jesus, I'm going to have to tell Negz.
Middle Child. Well, you remember, Don Juan is the sister of the new girlfriend. Or are you? I don't know. I'm reading Ariel. You guys blocked me so I couldn't see shit. Okay. Keeks. Oh, Keeks. Boy, you. That's why someone said, oh, Keeks will work him. I'm so tired that I am hallucinating human beings talking to me. Paying rent. Keep the apartment and use it.
She's hallucinating human beings talking to her. I don't think that's the first time, and I certainly don't think that's the last. Maybe, if you were in your right mind, maybe if you were clear-headed, you would be able to distinguish between reality and a hallucination. Maybe. I'm not so sure, but I'm just saying. All right.
As a Gut Boy studio. Corn Chowder said that. Oh my. I don't know why he would need it as a Gut Boy studio. I mean, he hasn't been doing Gut Boy, remember? He stopped that years ago. He's been working. Can you guys hear me? Probably not. These fucking crazy bitches. And I noticed things have changed around here. Like people were quiet and shit, and now it's making sense.
Oh.
Are you guys waiting for me?
Take your ass to bed. Turn off the lights. Get off that phone and go to bed.
Why do you have to look off to the side when you talk?
Oh boy. What a sad story. What an absolutely tragic tale. That this woman has completely lost her mind. That she's gone crazy with the attention and the way that people have covered for her. The moral of this story is when somebody new pops up on the scene and they're producing content that you enjoy, sit back for a few months and wait. Don't call them a breath of fresh air. Don't mod them in your chat. Don't immediately promote them. Don't just wait, okay? And just because this person, this new creator or newish creator is going after people that you don't like does not make them credible. It does not make them legit. But too many people keep on making that mistake over and over again. They keep on stepping on rakes and there's no sign of it stopping, which is crazy to me. So, I don't know. That's enough fresh air for now. Let's stink the place up a bit. Actually, no. You know what I'm going to do now? Yeah, chronic pain is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Scoliosis is hilarious. A dad that is in mental decline, cognitive decline, and goes so crazy that he tries to shoot your mom, and you have to stand between them. And then content creators use that story to suggest that my father hated me when I was trying to save my mother's life, which I did. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's all hilarious, all of it. Because I guess not all parents are created equal, not all families are created equal, not all kids are created equal. Some people are dehumanized to the point that you can say anything about them. Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I think that she gets, people watching her, but the number of people chatting, people have taken a look at the participants in her chats, and she's got like a core audience of like 15 people, and that's it. But again, my only warning is give people time to show you who they are. Give people time. And don't make any sudden moves. So, yeah, she does have 20 mods. And if one of those mods steps out of line and contradicts her, or criticizes her, or associates with people that she doesn't care for, she puts them on blast. Just like FFG. What a coincidence. Anyway, all right. Now that we've seen that, which Ricky are you talking to, Raven? I don't see a Ricky in chat. So, oh, and the other thing that I love about her, not Ricky, but Hecate, is she decided that she was going to call a bunch of us transphobic, which went in one ear and out the other with me. Oh, Ricky Mork is here? Why the hell can't I see her? I can't see her, but okay, Ricky Mork, welcome. That's cool. How am I feeling, Goral? It depends on the day. There are days that the pain in my ankle is horrendous. Hey, no name, thank you. There you go. Yeah, I actually had to drop out of Brown and finish college in DC because my father's mental state had declined so much that my mother wanted me close by, and so I had to leave Brown University in order to be close by so that I could protect her. It was an immigrant family, okay? And immigrant families don't put their relatives in nursing homes. They don't call the police. They don't force their relatives into therapy. They don't 5150 them, you know. So that's why I had to leave Brown, which has also been a great subject of mirth around the community, that I couldn't hack it, that I was too stupid, that, you know, no, I dropped out for the benefit of my family because family is more important than anything. And nobody was more important to me in my life than my mother. So, I hope that you're all satisfied. I can't wait to see the cancer merch that comes out because, GERD merch was produced, making fun of my chronic condition. So I can't wait to see the creativity that the community puts into creating merch of my cancer. It's going to be great, isn't it? It's going to be lovely. Okay. Now, we were told that that woman is a breath of fresh air. But I'm going to show you a true breath of fresh air. This is what I was going to say. God damn it, I keep on getting sidetracked. So, I don't know if you guys know King Lo. King Lo has been around forever. King Lo and Pew Pew Tasha used to be buddies, then they fell out. Then Hecate had a problem with her. And I say her because King Lo is a trans man, but I don't do the whole pronoun thing. I'll call him him, okay? Just not to be a dick. Now, Hecate has accused so many of us of transphobia. So many. Oh, you're so transphobic. But she herself has been misgendering Lo as recently as, a couple of days ago? But again, it doesn't matter if she does it, because if she's mad at somebody, then, all that horseshit SJW ally crap goes right out the window, and she goes for the jugular. Now, I don't care if people misgender Lo. What I do care about is when people who go around trying to turn their communities and other communities against certain people by accusing them of being transphobic, then turn around and behave in that fashion, and nobody says anything. Nobody says anything. Where's the outrage? I'm not outraged. I'm just pointing out something. Okay. Now, yesterday, I mentioned that I had found this amazing rising star in the Democratic Party. Karma, you and I are in the same position. I, too, am a Democrat. I refuse to leave the party because I'm stubborn. And I'm a very optimistic person. And hope springs eternal. Hang on. Oh, yeah, I know. That's why she feels that she has a right to be racist against Latinos. And I heard her make the comment that, well, she's black, so, she can go after Latinos. No, it doesn't work like that, Hecate. It doesn't. Does it go the other way? That because I'm Latina, that I can go after you for being black? Or is it just a one-way street? Oh, I know she thinks she's a gatekeeper. So does Fresh Garbage. They both think they're gatekeepers. Yeah, that's what I thought, Gata. I mean, not that I'm tempted. I'm just saying that I find it interesting that she gives herself permission to behave in an incredibly racist way to Latinas or Latino people by mocking them speaking Spanish and all of that kind of thing. But I'm just wondering if she's going to have anything to say about it. I know she doesn't like Erie pepperoni, but you didn't mock Erie per se. You mocked her speaking Spanish. And that sucks. Even BBW Veronica pointed it out today. That, the way that she goes after Latinos is bullshit. But then again, why am I surprised? Oh, Karma, what I was going to tell you is that I, too, am a Democrat and Negz is a Republican, so we're kind of in the same boat, I think, you and I. And I'm clinging on for dear life. Oh, before I move on to the real breath of fresh air, I just wanted to respond to a comment that I saw in a chat that was really stupid. So there's a person who is a regular chatter in a lot of different communities. I won't mention their name. I don't want to give them the thrill of me having their name come out of my mouth. but they were saying that I'm a fraud and I don't really care about the well-being of kids because I haven't talked about James Charles on my channel. No, I haven't talked about James Charles on my channel. You know why? Because I'm more focused on talking about the Pakistani grooming gangs in the UK. That's what I'm focused on. I'm more focused on shedding light on the actual suffering and exploitation of girls as young as 9 years old that has been going on for decades, where the perpetrators, very few people were arrested, very few people went to jail. Now a lot of these guys are getting out of jail, or they have been getting out of jail. The problem has not stopped, and I don't see, and the Labour Party is going to great lengths to avoid a national inquiry for obvious reasons, because too many of them are wrapped up in this fuck shit. Not that they're grooming girls, but that they know people, political allies, donors, whatever, who were involved in this. So they don't want too much light shed on this story. So if you want James Charles content, go to Peter Mon, go to Rich Lux, go to Nick Snyder, go to Dustin Daly. You're not going to get it here because I am focused on things that actually matter in life. Maybe you don't know the difference. I don't know, Doris. I don't care about James Charles. I don't care. I mean, James Charles has been going at this for years, and he has yet to be arrested. We have yet to see anything happen to him. I suspect that what he's been doing is he's been paying off a lot of these young men to buy their silence. Whether we ever hear the whole story is a mystery, but in the meantime, I am going to focus on things that actually fucking matter, okay? And if you think my content is boring or you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Oh, he's being predatory? Well, I hope then that that his victims get justice. That's all I can say. Oh, girl, I enjoyed doing it. Yeah, I enjoyed doing it too. And yeah, I think he should have been canceled years ago as well. But you know what? He brings in the money. He makes a lot of money for his sponsors. Just like Hassan Piker. There was a guy, I don't even know if I should mention this guy's name. But he was recently banned from Twitch because he called Frogan fat and ugly. And apparently the ban wasn't permanent. He came back and, is it Tectonic, I think is his name? I don't know. I don't know who these streamers are on Twitch. And when he was brought back, Twitch told him, just don't mention Frogan. Frogan, who gets like 100 people in chat. Frogan, who is a nobody. Frogan, who is a bigot, is being protected by Twitch. So much so that they kick this hugely popular streamer off the platform. And then when they bring him back, they're like, yeah, but you can't mention her. So, I don't know. These platforms are not consistent. Tectone. Thank you, Rosalind. Tectone. All right. I mean, listen, as long as people can make money off of James Charles, he's not going anywhere. And unless somebody presses charges on him, he's definitely not going anywhere. So why would I waste my breath talking about him? Why would I do that? Peter Mon has been talking about him for years, and so have all the drama channels, and it hasn't made a dent. So why do I need to add my voice to the chorus? Everybody knows what James Charles is. Everyone knows. And it hasn't made a difference, so... Okay. As I was saying, there is an amazing young politician in New Hampshire named Jonah Wheeler. And Karma, you might want to listen to this because I swear there is light at the end of the tunnel. If the DNC were to wake up and stop promoting people like David Hogg and instead take a look at this young man, this kid has an amazing future. And I don't mean to be condescending by calling him a kid, but he's very young. He's in his early 20s. And this guy is the whole package. He's the whole package. He's amazing. He's incredibly brave. He's willing to buck the party when necessary. And why am I talking when I can just show you? He's in the New Hampshire legislature. Okay, let me bring this up. And you guys have to listen to this guy. He is amazing. Jonah Wheeler in the New Hampshire state legislature. Give it a listen.
So, Mr. Speaker, for us, and I pause because my colleagues are walking out as I give this speech. People are clapping in the gallery for their walking out. And Mr. Speaker, I think that illustrates exactly why I got up here today. I could have quietly voted my conscience, could have followed the party line, but Mr. Speaker, again, the consent of one person cannot stand for the consent of another. And just because one person is comfortable with a transgender woman being in the bathroom with them or playing sports with them or being in a prison with them doesn't mean that another woman is. And these issues do not have to cause violence. These conversations
I agree with
can
you,
be
Doris.
nuanced, and we can have conversations about treating each other with respect and humanity, and putting in place policies that say that women who were born women deserve a space to themselves, whether that be the bathroom or sports or the locker room or prisons, is not transphobic. And there are people in my town, there are people throughout the country who are liberal, left-leaning people who agree with what I just said here, but some of them won't vote with me here. Some of them, in fact, have left the party in my town. There was just a woman last week who left my party because she felt not only was she not being heard, but she felt like there was no way for her to even speak up about this position. And given how many people are still in their seats, I can understand why. The orthodoxy of the Democratic Party on this issue has left us to where we can't have nuanced discussions, and women are being silenced.
We can't have discussions at all, nuanced or non-nuanced. That is the problem. I'm gonna let him finish.
In this conversation, as much as people don't want to hear that, that is what is happening. And when I talked to people on this side of the issue and this side of the issue, I heard, I don't want any violence to happen against me. I don't want to be disrespected or unheard. I heard that from transgender individuals, and I heard that from women. So, Mr. Speaker, I think HB 148, legislation which enables localities, municipalities, and businesses to put in place specific policies around definitions of sex, is not a right-wing, fascist, Nazi movement like I've been told that it is. I was called a Nazi for the prospect of giving this speech.
Of course you were. That young man, Jonah Wheeler, and I put the tweet in the chat, that young man, Jonah Wheeler, just turned 22 years old last month. 22 years old. And in his 22 years on Earth, he has developed more common sense than the entirety of the Democratic Party, the DNC, politicians, governors, people in state legislatures. I am so impressed by this young man. So impressed. I'm so impressed that I'm going to send him a campaign donation. And this is the first time in decades that I have sent money to a politician, because it's like throwing good money after bad usually. 22 years old. I am so excited to see what he's going to do over the course of his career. I want this guy in the Senate. He's a regular Daniel Webster. Amazing. Smart, articulate, principled, fearless. All the qualities that you want in somebody who is representing you. So, all right. Now let's see. What do I go to next? Oh, I know. Now that we've had a real breath of fresh air, I'm going to show you something that I watched the other night, and it left me very, very sad. For those of you who don't know, Soft White Underbelly, you probably all know the channel. He has made a career out of interviewing prostitutes, homeless people, drug addicts, people who live on Skid Row primarily. But recently he decided that he was going to include different types of interviews covering different subjects. I watched this interview the other night, and on the one hand, I wasn't surprised by what I heard, and on the other hand, I was absolutely appalled by what I heard. So since we're on the transgender topic, and we're going to close out with something else, but I thought that we might watch this together. It's a young father talking about the fight to keep his child's mother from turning him into a girl or transing him. The child will never be a girl, but putting him through transition. And this guy's story is so incredible that, I don't think that it's unusual, but it is incredible. And he's very, very brave. And I have a real soft spot in my heart for dads who are being shut out of their kids' lives, who then go the extra mile, the extra 2 miles, 20 miles to stay in their kids' lives and protect them. And what we're seeing more and more of is that it is obvious that in all of these families, it's the mother who is the driving force behind transing the sons. And one day we're going to get a psychological breakdown of why it is that mothers have been caught up in this craze, and why it is that so many mothers seem to have a problem having sons, and why they want to dress their boys up as girls and mutilate them, operate on them, put them on hormones. I don't get it, and it is tragic. Obviously, the most famous example is Jazz Jennings, but listen to this guy's story, and it is heart-wrenching. Let's go.
All right, Harrison. So you're going through something currently that's pretty interesting. Where do we start the story? With your son is how old? Five now?
Yeah, my son's 5 now.
Tell me how this all started.
I was in.
No name. I didn't review this one. This is a different one. It's the same channel, but it's a different story. And the stories are somewhat similar, but no, this is a totally different guy.
The Bay Area, going to visit my parents from Tahoe, and I went to karaoke. I love singing, and I was singing Mr. Brightside, and I saw a blonde girl that I thought was pretty, and I kind of sang to her and then talked to her, and we basically started dating and fell in love. So we started dating. It was kind of a up and down relationship, but we definitely loved each other. And, there were some red flags in the beginning. It seemed like some mental health issues. And essentially, like very shortly into our relationship, she got pregnant. And thankfully, we were both super stoked about that. And we were both stoked when we found out it was a boy. We agreed upon the name Sawyer. It's a really happy thing, amazing name. But when she announced that she was pregnant on social media, she said, "Baby Sawyer, due in December. I'll love you whether you're a boy or girl or neither." And that scared me a lot, especially because she was excited it was a boy. And basically, she would have conversations with me and ask me, like, "Oh, what if our kid's trans?" And I would say, like, "I'm not going to affirm a delusion with my kid. I don't think that's compassionate or loving."
Good for
and
you.
that would really upset her. And it got to a point where I was just getting threatened daily that I wouldn't be able to see it Sawyer for basically my political beliefs. And about halfway through the pregnancy, she sent me a letter from her attorney, broke up with me, cut off all contact. I didn't know when my son was born. I found out about a week later from social media. And one of her friends reached out and told me, showed me a picture. It's heartbreaking to, miss that day. You meet people and they're a rock star, they're a Green Beret, and they still say, "Oh, the best day of my life was the day my kid was born." So figured out what I was going to do. I ended up filing in court 2 months after he was born, and took 13 more months of court just to meet him.
In that photo on social media that you first saw your son, what was he wearing?
He was just wrapped like a baby. Like They were wrapped in a little blanket thing. Yeah, nothing crazy then.
Not pink.
Yeah.
No.
I think it was like dinosaurs or something. I don't recall exactly, but it was just like a normal baby wrap. And I basically had to do a bunch of stuff in court. Everything would just get delayed and delayed. And thankfully, I was finally able to meet him at 15 months old. I got to look him in the eyes for the first time. It was just the most miracle, frequency, magic moment of my life. Like finally, like you go through 15 months of just suffering. Every time you lay your head at night, just like I literally have a son in the world who doesn't even know I exist, like in any way. But I got to meet him. It was just incredible. Finally got to look him in the eyes, hold him, be with him. I remember it was just one of the worst times of my life were those 15 months not being able to be with him. And then when I finally got to be with him, we were spending this day together. They made it all like someone had to be there with us, like taking notes on me. So it was not as fun and happy as it potentially could have been, but it was still absolutely incredible. And I was so thankful. And I remember I was playing with him and just talking to him, and it got to like midday and he was going to take a nap because he's only very young, so he takes naps.
Wow, supervised visits. Isn't that amazing? Supervised visits. Incredible. Let's continue.
Still, and I remember I got to put him down for his nap, and I was laying with him, until he fell asleep. He wanted me to lay with him, I was holding him. And I remember he fell asleep, and I was like just looking at him sleeping, and I just, for the first time, just broke down, crying like I've never cried in my life. It's like it all just hit me like, wow, I'm actually a dad now. I'm actually with my son. And, from there, got visits with him and FaceTimes. I moved to the Bay Area, and it was probably only like 3 or 4 months after that first visit. I filed in court again saying I'd moved to the Bay Area and I wanted more custody, and really grateful the judge immediately gave me half custody. So I got to spend more time with my son, and it was just...
It's nothing short of a miracle that a court in the Bay Area granted him more custody. That was the most surprising part of the whole story. I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm just stating a fact. I am shocked that a Bay Area judge was willing to listen to this man and grant him more custody based on the fuck shit that we've seen going on in courthouses all over the country.
I was so thankful because it's really hard to be a dad in family court sometimes. As
Hi, Wendy.
A lot of people have experienced, I didn't even get to meet him for 15 months just because I guess I wasn't on the birth certificate. It doesn't seem like a really good way of doing things. And, it was about when I won half custody, his mom started to pretend that he was non-binary. She started to call him they all the time.
Oh, God.
Put him in dresses and makeup, show him different transgender things like RuPaul's Drag Race. She started to defame me horrendously, make up just the worst lies about me possible, post it on social media even. That was a hard thing to deal with. Luckily, I was able to prove it to be untrue, and it was so severe, like defamation and harassment, that the court actually gave me a temporary restraining order because of the lies that were said about me being so severe. And so I got this temporary restraining order. She was calling him they, put him in dresses. I remember on his second birthday, she took him to Disneyland. When he got back, he was like, "Dada, when I went to Disneyland, I couldn't go on the rides unless I wore my princess shoes, and I didn't want to wear princess shoes. I wanted to wear boy shoes."
That is so sad.
And I just thought that was such a horrible thing. You have your kid, you take him to the happiest place on earth, how could you not let them go on rides unless they wore what you wanted them to? It just seems so cruel to me. And, you know, you have a kid and you love your kid more than anything in the world. I mean, you really, like, when you have
Correct,
a kid, it just, like, it opens your heart to an amount of love I didn't even know existed. Like, I didn't know I was capable of loving so much. I didn't know how much my parents loved me until I had Sawyer. And it's like, when you love someone that much, I would think you would want them to be happy with who they are. What else would you want for someone you love? So all this non-binary stuff, the temporary restraining order for defaming me, his mom ended up getting arrested for child endangerment and placed on a 5150 hold while he was with her. So I brought all those things to court to try to get full custody of him. And it took a long time to get this all to happen, but we ended up having a trial months later. And it ended up being a 5-day trial, 5 afternoons. You know, we have all this evidence and police officers and witnesses. And you feel like most people go to family court and they get a 20-minute hearing and their whole life's decided and that's it. So I feel that I have this chance to actually say, like, look what's going on and how crazy it is and how he'd be safer with me and how he knows he's a boy, not a girl, because he'd always fight his mom on it, you know, and say, I'm a boy. He'd yell at her. One time she messaged me on the court app, our family wizard that we would talk on, saying like, oh, Sawyer was yelling at me saying that he's a boy and I'm a girl and how dare you do that? He ended up biting me and just basically admitting that they had gotten into a physical altercation over it.
Wow.
Which I just thought was mind-blowing that she would even admit that on the court app. And I believe she started identifying as non-binary herself.
Of course.
Something like that. And so we have this 5-day trial, and I just was so thankful to actually get all this evidence put out there, tell the court what's going on. But a few months later, the court renders their decision, and they decide that they're going to keep custody 50-50. They have nothing to say about the gender stuff. That's
which is insane.
Between us. And I was heartbroken, was devastated. I'd like given my all to try to protect Sawyer, and I didn't know what to do next. I'd spent, you know, all my money on attorneys, and I tried to come up with some sort of plan to protect him. I knew I had to do anything, everything it takes to protect him. Like I would do absolutely anything for him, just like every parent, every person should try to protect children and their innocence. They're the most pure, amazing amongst us. Like,
hey, to the person who criticized me for not talking about James Charles, see, I'm talking about children. I'm talking about a serious issue. And I have been, by the way, talking about the issue of transing children and putting them on the fast track to surgery and so on, puberty blockers. Maybe you missed all those streams, but I've been going on about this for 4 years now. So yeah, I'm concerned about children, and I'm concerned about serious issues. Serious issues. I'm not concerned about an influencer who pays off young people to stay silent until charges are brought. Once charges are brought, then I'll talk about it, okay? But for right now, I am going to focus on what is actually happening to kids that is harming them on a large scale. Okay? I hope that's okay with you. Let's continue.
we have to protect people like that. We have a duty as a dad to protect your kid. I decided I was going to start speaking about it publicly, and I'm thankful to the Daily Wire who, you know, broke my story, and Matt Walsh, and they retweeted it, and it just ended up being this whirlwind where I started speaking out on a bunch of podcasts and going to the California Capitol to testify on some of the crazy anti-parent bills they have going on in California, like AB 957,
right?
Which was to tell courts in family court to rule with the gender-affirming parent.
Yeah, and now an equally crazy bill is being debated in Colorado. I don't know what has happened in Colorado, but it's very, very frightening. Very frightening. There has to be a way, there has to be a happy medium between allowing parents to have a complete free reign on every single decision having to do with their children, even if that means withholding medical treatment, even if that because of their religion, even if that means, you know, engaging in abusive practices. So that's one extreme. And the other extreme is that the government can take your child away if you don't affirm a delusion that they may have, or a misunderstanding, or growing pains that lead them to believe that they are the opposite sex. There has to be a happy medium, because this legislation that is being proposed in a couple of states is totally and completely off the mark. And it is insanity. Absolute insanity. Let's continue.
In 665, which was letting kids, I believe 12 and older, basically go to government homes so they can pursue, transgender things without their parents' knowledge. A lot of really scary bills. And I just found myself in this place of being an advocate for parental rights all of a sudden and protecting children, and met all these incredible people, done all these interviews, and it's just been surreal, really.
It's funny that you say that, Queen, because I was thinking about this the other day. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a little bit of research on Christian Scientists and others who had allowed their children to die, basically, of what started as a common cold or the flu, that then escalated and killed the child. And very, very few of these parents end up going to jail. Very few. It's a very fine line, given the First Amendment, the Freedom of Religion Clause, and not wanting to interfere with people's religious practices, but at the same time having to look out for the welfare of children. And I was actually very surprised to see how few of these parents ended up going to jail. I think that it was a matter of intent, like the parents didn't set out to kill their child, but the child still died due to their belief set. And that's something else that we need to take a closer look at as a country.
And I was able to raise some money for attorney fees to appeal the court's decision about the trial, to try to say, hey, we think you guys got it wrong. And I go through a long period of just speaking out as much as I can, everywhere I can, just to protect Sawyer. And in March of last year, I was at home, custody still 50-50, and I got a phone call. It was the San Francisco police, and they told me to pick up my son. So I went right there, picked him up, and super thankful to the police officers and to CPS in San Francisco. There's good people at CPS. There's good people in the whole world, everywhere you are.
I agree,
I think
Joe.
the line between good and evil is in all of our hearts, and you have to choose for yourself which part of you, if you want to be good or evil, every one of us has to choose that. And I feel like it was miraculous, the CPS workers I got, because I've heard a lot of horror stories about CPS even taking kids from safe, healthy parents just for not being gender affirming. But in my case, they took this arrest really seriously. They did a very thorough investigation for months and months, and interviewed me a bunch. I showed them all the court documents and history. I had 5 of my ex-girlfriends had written letters for me on my behalf because all the lies that were made up about me. I'm super thankful to all of them. It's an extremely kind thing to do. It's really hard to reach out to someone you used to date and be in love with and tell them that something so crazy is happening and you need their help. And they did that for me.
That's great.
It blows my mind that people are that kind.
Were there signs with Sawyer's mom that she was mentally unstable before this all happened?
Yeah, when we were dating, she clearly had some mental illness problems. I wasn't sure what. It was extremely up and down. She would just be the sweetest, most loving person ever. And then a few minutes later could just be the cruelest person I've ever met. So it was a really interesting dichotomy of ups and downs. I had never experienced anything like that. It was, in my opinion, just the most severe mental illness I had seen.
It sounds like there were signs of her wanting the child to be.
Yeah, of course. Like, she posted about it on social media. She asked me about it.
But even before Sawyer was born?
Yeah, before he was even born. And
does Sawyer show any inclination to want to be female?
He's thankfully always said he's a boy, adamantly. He knows he's a boy. And it's just incredible to see that he has that sort of rebellious spirit in him to not buy into that. Because unfortunately, I know a lot of parents and kids where the kid buys into that. When the parents push this on the kids, and you want love from your mother or your father, and when they're going to withhold that love or not let you go.
It's so sad because it's obvious that the little boy has a very strongly formed sense of self already, and he knows he's not a girl. He knows, and I cannot imagine the embarrassment that this kid is put through if he's in preschool or if he's in kindergarten and his mother is forcing him to wear girls' clothes or go by a different name, whatever. I don't know the details of this situation, but good on this kid. Good on him. And what a terrible, terrible tragedy that he is being forced into this terrible position by his mother, who is clearly out of her mind. Let's continue.
You go on the rides at Disneyland unless you do something. A lot of kids fall into it and start to believe it themselves. I mean, your kid will tell you they're Spider-Man all the time, and you don't just be like, oh, okay, let's go to the highest buildings and swing off. They tell you that they're a pirate, and you're not like, okay, let's cut off your leg and poke your eye out and give you an eye patch and like a little parrot on your shoulder. We don't affirm like any of these crazy delusions. Kids say they're a dinosaur, the astronaut, all these things all the time, and we don't play into it. But for this one thing, we're playing into it as a society where we're literally cutting healthy body parts off of children,
right,
and giving them puberty blockers and hormones that are sterilizing them for life, making them...
You know what's really funny? I have seen a number of videos trying to explain why it is that this phenomenon is so prevalent in acting families, because it's very prevalent. I haven't yet seen an explanation that I think covers it. Obviously, a lot of it is the susceptibility of these kids to influences just like other kids, whether they're watching TikTok or, you know, getting wrapped up in the social contagion or whatever. But I'm going to make a very crude analogy. So, remember when China had a one-child policy? And there were reports that little girls were being abandoned in trash cans. Little girls were being dumped on country roads or just basically left in the forest to die and so on, because Chinese families were trying for boys and they could only have one child. So if the first kid was a girl, they had to dispose of that child. And so there was this huge international push to adopt Chinese girls. And it got to a point where adopting a Chinese girl was almost like a status symbol. You know, like, I mean, not for everybody, God knows, because adopting a child from China is still very, it's not easy, okay? Don't think that just because parents want to dump little girls, that means that the Chinese government makes it any easier for a foreigner to come in and adopt that child, okay? There's a tremendous amount of paperwork, a lot of red tape. You have to go through the State Department. It's a lot, okay? And you have to find a legitimate adoption agency. And there are a lot of stories about how complicated it was and still continues to be to adopt a little girl from China. And again, I saw a lot of examples of wealthy couples who were adopting these Chinese babies as a way of showing their virtue or showing how, I don't know if compassionate is the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Then the Chinese girl trend was replaced with the African child trend. And we saw all the bullshit that Madonna got into in Malawi, where it appears that some of the rules and regulations surrounding adoption, she did an end run around those. And that maybe one of the kids or both of the kids were not exactly orphans when they were adopted, because apparently in Malawi, and there are other countries where children are sent to orphanages not because the parents want them adopted, but because they can't afford to take care of them. And so the orphanage takes them in, houses them, feeds them, and then along comes Madonna and looks at these children and says, oh, I want that one. And there are a lot of orphanages that are not exactly, shall we say, going by the book, if you will, and a wealthy Westerner comes in, they're not going to say no. My friend Frank has lived in Cambodia for many years, and he has told me about some of the terrible things that go on in Cambodian orphanages. So, you know, I hate to put it this way, but there are definitely signs that babies can be trendy, you know, depending on the race, the background, whatever. And I think that now we're seeing fewer people adopting children from Asia or from Africa, and we are seeing an increase in the number of transgender children who are the children of celebrities. Now, is this a result of narcissism? Is it just, you know, wanting to be with the in crowd? Are trans kids a status symbol for these celebrities? How many of these kids are actually transgender, and how many of them are just, you know, in it for attention? I don't know. But anyway. Oh, of course. How could I forget the Russian children? Oh, and the Romanian orphans in the 1980s or the early 90s after the wall came down and people saw the horrendous conditions of Romanian orphanages after Ceausescu had made abortion illegal. And the children were horribly neglected. And, you know, people came over to adopt them and saw that there were some really serious, there was a lot of damage that was done to these children because the children were never held, they were never cuddled. And then with the Russian orphans as well, there were a number of stories, and I never heard this about any other nationality, by the way, that there were American parents who were overwhelmed with the emotional problems of the babies or the children that they adopted from these Russian orphanages. There was a very famous case where one mother sent a child back and she was vilified. And there was a lot of debate around that topic. When I was younger, and my mother was still living in the home that I grew up in DC, there was somebody living across the street, and they had adopted 2 Russian orphans. And the girl was, you know, absolutely fine. The boy had a lot of emotional problems. And became a disciplinary problem. Now, does that have to do with the fact that he was in an orphanage? I don't know. But yeah, exactly. See, you guys are pointing out in chat exactly my point, which is that children can be trendy. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there are parents who are pushing their kids into this in Hollywood in order to be cool like the other Hollywood parents. It's awful. If that's the case, then I think that is horrendous.
Never develop. You know, there's young women I know that are detransitioners like Chloe Cole, Laura Becker, and they got their breast removed and they regret it now, and they can never breastfeed their potential future babies if they're lucky enough to even be able to have babies after taking all those hormones. And I don't understand how as a society we're letting something so just evil happen and letting children make decisions. Like, we don't let kids smoke. We don't let them get a tattoo. We don't let them join the military. They can't do any of these things as a minor, but yet we're letting them pretend that there's something they're not and sterilizing them for life. It's heartbreaking. To me, it's the battle of our lifetime. Our society, this is like lobotomy. This is like slavery. We need to stop this evil.
And kids are allowed to make these kind of decisions at a very young age, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'll socially transition kids at any age. I mean, some people have their babies born now, and they say that they don't have a gender. They're going to let the baby choose for themselves. It's absolute insanity. And there's kids that get Lupron and different, you know, chemical castration drugs as young as 11 that I've seen, and probably younger in some
11.
cases. It's horrifying. And the parents that try to stand up against it, schools will take your kid. My son Johnny's going to school. When he gets to school, They'll give him a dress, start calling him Charlotte. Everyone at the school will know that. Everyone will treat him as a girl, and everyone will keep it from the parent.
Right.
And they even passed a law in California to make that the standard. So our whole society is just caving to this radical idea that kids can change their gender, and they can't.
Have you guys noticed, by the way, have you guys noticed that Gavin Newsom is changing his tune quite significantly on a number of these issues? And the old ruse that this is just a fake culture war issue that is being pushed by the right wing is not working anymore. And there are a number of politicians who are backing down and sounding a lot more reasonable. They're not completely there yet, but I did notice. And I wonder, because politicians don't usually do things because it's the right thing to do. They do things because they're worried about losing an election. They're worried about losing their donors. And they take polling and they run focus groups and they realize, holy shit, I am completely at odds with my constituents. A smart politician will pay attention. A stupid and stubborn one will continue along the same course. And they are now relegated to the bin of history. Let's continue.
Lupron is a drug that blocks.
It's a puberty blocker, I believe, and it was used back in the day to chemically castrate sex offenders in prison, and they deemed it to be too inhumane to continue to do that to prisoners that are adults that have done horrible things. And yet now we're willingly giving it to kids at 11 years old. So that says a lot on its own.
Yeah.
And I've met some of the most incredible people through all of this.
And you know, the thing that kills me about Lupron and the puberty blocker thing is that the ACLU protested and said that chemically castrating sex offenders with that drug was cruel and unusual punishment. But when it comes to children, they are pushing very, very hard for kids to have access to puberty blockers. I don't understand that. I don't get it. And you know what? I've gone off on the ACLU so many times, and it makes me sad every time I talk about them. But what a contradiction.
Lots of other parents I've talked to, and most of them, when they speak out against the gender stuff, they lose custody. Full custody goes to the mom who wants to pretend the little boys.
Oh, you know something, Queen? You know something, Queen? I am so glad you put up 1984, because there was something I wanted to mention at the beginning of the stream that I didn't. So one of the things that has stood out to me in following this whole Ethan Klein, iDubbbz Hassan thing is the way that iDubbbz keeps on returning to that talking point that I was being empathetic when I did my content cop and my content deputy. I was being empathetic. I was being kind. I was looking out for your best interest. And I was trying to help you. And I was doing it from the point of view of compassion. I mean, gaslighting on an industrial scale, right? And it reminded me, and it just dawned on me today, just hit me like a ton of bricks. If you have read George Orwell's 1984, you will know that all of the ministries in Oceania have names that try to put the public at ease, even though the public knows pretty much what is going on behind closed doors in those ministries. And the ministry that is in charge of re-education and torture, I mean, basically putting people through struggle sessions, you know, Maoist struggle sessions, or the equivalent, and trying to get them back in line if they break the rules of the party, of Big Brother, and uses techniques like torture, imprisonment, starvation, all of that. That ministry was called the Ministry of Love. And I thought about that today, and I thought, wow, iDubbbz has now officially, now we have officially reached an Orwellian level of gaslighting. And, like I said, hello, my love. Like I said, Orwell did not write that book as a blueprint for how to run a country. I guess that the UK missed that memo. But when I thought of the Ministry of Love, that was the first thing that I just had to kind of sit down for a minute. I love Orwell too, gotta. Everyone should read Orwell. All of his writing. Let's continue.
It's a girl, and they don't even let the dad see the kid. And if they're lucky enough to see the kid in that case, they want them to be on a little supervised visit where they have to call their son a girl. And they're being watched. And if they don't do that, they can't see their son. And that's just such a terrible position to put a father in. You have to force them to lie just to see their kid.
Do you need a team of lawyers to win this case?
So what ended up happening is March of last year, I got that call. There was a big CPS investigation. I believe the day after, filed an ex parte in family court for temporary custody, immediate emergency full custody. They actually denied it, which was just like radical, because they really are supposed to take those very seriously. And so,
okay, so in other words, the mother is crazy. The mother has been prone to fits of violence. The mother has been 5150'd. And this guy, even though he had a streak of luck with the court, could not get full custody of this child. What does a mother have to do to lose custody of a child? I just don't get it. I don't get it. But let's see if we can figure out why the court let her hang on to this kid.
So some of the things from the arrest allegedly were, she basically was arrested for assault and battery, I believe, and elder abuse, and she was fighting her dad. And they live in San Francisco. She has two dads. She was adopted as a baby. And I guess, one of them she often fights with, and Sawyer was there for this, but she was fighting with him physically, and I've seen the police report and the photo evidence, and it was so severe that I believe she broke his nose.
Wow.
They both looked bloody in the police evidence, and he said he feared for his life. And so basically Sawyer snuck up actually while the fight was happening to see what's going on, and he's 4 years old at the time. And he sneaks up with his little kid's baseball bat, I believe. They called it a bowling pin or something in the police report. It looked like a plastic kid's baseball bat to me, but either way, he sneaks up to see what's happening with his mom, as anyone would. And according to his mom, he did this on his own. According to Sawyer, when he snuck up and they noticed, she said, hit him in the face, hit him in the face.
Wow.
And I tend to believe Sawyer. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. But either way, my son at 4 years old had to hit his own grandpa in the face with a kid's baseball bat.
That's awful.
And I saw, even in the police photo evidence, a bloodied kid's baseball bat.
That poor boy.
And I just think that's a tragedy that no 4-year-old should go through. And what adult, when something like that is happening, wouldn't tell the 4-year-old, run away, run away?
Right.
It's just, how could something like that even happen to a 4-year-old? I just feel so bad for
and
the kid.
How could she
He's such
not
a strong
lose
boy.
custody?
Who has to be in a position? It's admirable that he would want to protect his mom. I love that. That's admirable. But not 4 years old. No 4-year-old should be in that position. And, basically the family court denied my ex parte, and then thankfully CPS, San Francisco, California, stepped up. They said, that's okay. We're not going to let him, be with her. We don't feel that that's safe.
Wow.
And they gave her supervised visits, and they did a really long investigation, 3 or 4 months. And I showed them all the court documents, just always openly talk to them without an attorney. Mom would only talk to him with an attorney, hardly tell them anything. And thankfully, I got the CPS workers. I did. They didn't care about politics. Mom tried to paint me as right wing and all these different things, when in reality, I'm just a dad that loves his son and wants to protect him. And it came down to court for CPS. It's called dependency court. It's like a step above family court. And so there's Mom and her attorney, me and my attorney that was appointed to me, Sawyer and his attorney called minors counsel that they appointed him, CPS and their attorney. So the actual CPS worker and then the CPS attorney. And we all came to an agreement, essentially, mainly because of that incident. There was also, the first arrest, and there was also a second. So that was the third incident where CPS was called, I guess. I didn't even know about the second one until all of this. There was a second event where she had fought with her dad another time, and I guess CPS was called,
Oh,
and no one
boy.
even told me about it. But thankfully this time, they took it seriously, and we all came to the agreement of giving me full physical custody of Sawyer and split legal custody, but with the decision-making ability when we don't agree. So essentially...
Okay, full custody. Can we get some hats and horns and more celebratory emojis in the chat for this amazing dad? Can we please celebrate this incredible father? He rescued his child from being transed. He rescued his child from this insane mother. And I am so happy that this happened. Thank you, Beth. A real dad, a real man steps up and saves his kids. And that's what this dad did. And I have so much respect for dads that do that. So much respect.
Full legal custody too, and it's a miracle. It's a dream come true. Like I feel like I actually saved Sawyer, which was always my dream and I always believed, but it's just, I've seen so many dads lose custody, so many people lose custody. The family court system's not a fun place.
Are there a lot of cases where
And imagine that he accomplished all this in the Bay Area, where they could have held that I refuse to trans my kid thing against him. So imagine what a nightmare that mother must have been. Amazing.
the person who's in favor of a transition wins out?
Yeah. I mean, I have parents reach out to me all the time. I'm close friends with a few of them, that haven't even seen their kids in years. It seems that anyone who goes against
Agreed.
the fake gender, anyone who tries to speak truth and reality, saying, no, my kid's a boy, he'll always be a boy, seems to lose custody entirely, whether that be to the other parent or if that's not even the case where both parents agree. Sometimes CPS will take custody too. So
This guy got very, very, very lucky. Very, very lucky with the Bay Area court system. Very lucky. That was the thing that I found most unbelievable about the story, is that he did so well in court. Because you want to talk about the decks being stacked against you, especially in that part of California. Let's continue.
I hear it all the time. It's usually moms that trans the kids, but I've actually talked to a few moms where the dad was the one doing it.
Really?
Yeah. That's a lot more rare, but it's happening all over our whole country. California is especially bad, but...
And is it usually a male-born child that is being encouraged to transition to female?
No, it's both.
It's both.
There's a big trend right now of teenage girls doing it. It's like one of the girls gets in some Reddit loophole online, and once one kid does it, all the other kids start to sort of follow it, and there'll be like friend groups of teenage girls that are, all trans or non-binary or some weird experimental thing. I mean, schools even I have a friend in Colorado and thought her kid was going to art club, and they even called it art club. And when they went to art club, it was basically just an LGBT, XYZ, whatever, like event where they encouraged all the kids to like pick a different gender than just being normal, pick a different.
Did any of you guys in chat ever see the movie The Virgin Suicides? That's what this reminds me of.
Sexuality than being straight is just, and they called it art club. So, I mean, it's being encouraged all over. And yeah, when parents don't go along with it, a lot of people are trying to take the kids from them. And I think that the opposite is true. I think that it's child abuse to let a kid make a life-altering decision that can castrate them for life, sterilize them for life, actually cutting off body parts of children. That's happening. Literal children are having healthy breasts, penises removed, and then having to live with that the rest of their lives, and many of whom regret it and come out later and say, look, I shouldn't have been able to do that when I was 15 years old. Like, why did you let me do that? And I'm thankful to start to see, I feel this momentum of people waking up to basically the evil of this and wanting to push back against it. And we need more people to speak up and fight back. Say,
how old are you?
I'm 32.
32.
32 years old. Good for you.
You're a lot younger than I am, but do you recall when you were in like high school, there was a lot of this kind of stuff going on?
When I was in high school, I don't recall any transgender kids at all.
Same.
It wasn't really a thing even then, like 15 years ago. So
this is This phenomenon is roughly 10 years old. This social contagion, 10 years old, give or take a few years.
It's clear that there's this trend.
There seems to be more of it now than ever, and could be the awareness. But like when I was in high school, I went to a large high school, and I remember maybe one kid that might have been gay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't see any of it. There's good studies and books on this. I would encourage anyone to read, like Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. It's clear that there's something not organic happening. There's way too many kids. It's something like 1 in 8 in the Bay Area identifies as something other than what they truly are. I'll just call it, because I don't even want to use their words. But and it's just terrifying. Like you send your kid to school now, and you have to wonder if someone's going to try to convert them, groom them into being something they're not, and to believe.
And make no mistake, it absolutely is grooming. Grooming is more than an adult wanting to get their hands on someone else, a child, an adult, whatever. This is mental grooming, no question about it. So he's right.
Even there's something they're
Let's not look at the plastic or the pesticides or the cell phones or the whatever.
Yeah.
Hormones in the meat.
Yep.
It's an interesting time.
It is. But we have a chance to push back against it and put it in the rearview mirror, be the ones who stood up when
we're going to that topic
no one else
next
was standing up. I mean, we're all going to have to look our kids in the eyes, our grandkids in the eyes, and say what we did in this moment in history.
Yep.
So history is going to look back and say, how insane are they for doing that? Who would have let little kids chop off their breast and take Lupron? What is wrong with those people? Just like we look back on slavery and say that was insane. How did more people not speak up against that? Lobotomies.
Yep.
Prescribing pregnant women cigarettes. We now know that that is a very bad idea. We don't do it anymore.
Yeah, prescribing pregnant women thalidomide. And what happened as a result of that? I'm old enough to remember the thalidomide babies. Yep. Well, my conscience will be clear. When I take my final big sleep, my conscience will be as clear as a bell.
Anymore. This is no different. Everyone thinks of, slavery. Like they would have been the one to do something. World War II, they would have been one to help, hide the Jews. Or you watch Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and everyone, you always envision yourself sort of as like, oh, I'd be with the good guys.
Very, 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 very few human beings put in that position would be one of the good guys. Very, very few. Very few. A tiny minority. Because people are herd animals. They don't want to go against popular opinion. They're too afraid for their own safety. And absolutely not, they will not speak up. We're seeing it in the current year. We've been seeing it for a year and a half. Very few people are willing to stick their necks out and come to the assistance of a community that is under siege. I mean, how much evidence have I seen of it in this country? Richie Torres, John Fetterman, a handful of politicians. Even the Jewish politicians have abandoned ship. All a bunch of cowards. All of them. So, yeah, I mean, we all need to accept the reality that if we were put in that position, whether it's Nazi Germany, slavery, any of these terrible moments in history, most of us would go along to get along. Most of us. But thank God some people, like myself and like Negz, have big mouths.
I'd be standing up and being brave and saying like, oh, we're not going to let you do that. Well, here's your chance in real life. You have a chance right now to speak up when most people aren't, even though most of us, even in the Bay Area where I live, know it's wrong. Everyone I talk to says this trans stuff's gone way too far. It's crazy that we're doing this to kids. But most people don't have the courage to actually say anything.
You see?
And if more of us just spoke up, it would end. If everyone said what they truly believed, the children would be protected.
And he's right, but people don't. But people don't. Out of fear, out of self-preservation, and social media has made it 1,000 times worse because it's much easier to join a mob or to go with popular opinion than it is to buck it. So anyway, I mean, now you don't even need the Gestapo coming after you. You know, you have an online mob that comes after you. And goes after your job, goes after your family, goes after your reputation. Thank you, love. Thank you, No Name. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you, my darling. Yes, my dear. And you can assure Mr. No Name that we are not about to shut them, okay? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you, and enjoy your memberships, the people that are getting them. All right, I'm going to close out with the Shiloh Hendricks story. I know that I covered it yesterday, but I thought that this video was quite good, and I think that we need to get the perspective of an individual who lives overseas, who is not an American, on what has happened. So I thought that we would take a look at Sargon of Akkad made 2 videos about Shiloh Hendricks and Carmelo Anthony, and how the Give, Send, Go success is interconnected. So I thought that we might take a look at it. I did not even know that Sargon of Akkad was still on YouTube. For those of you who don't know Sargon of Akkad's lore, there's way too much to go into. But he was completely ritually humiliated by Mr. Medicare a number of years ago when he ran for the European Parliament along with Count Dankula. He had to kind of take his drubbing because he also accused Medicare of being a groomer and, targeting kids. It was a whole thing. It was incredibly embarrassing. But he's come back, and now he is making content, and he's also got a channel called The Lotus Eaters, where he's got a panel of people. So why don't we listen to what Sargon of Akkad had to say about this Shiloh Hendricks situation. Let's go. It's only 15 minutes, guys.
So the case of Shiloh Hendricks is revealing something that I think is quite important for American culture to think about. And I think that Aaron Magruder, the creator of the Boondocks, summarized it well a few years back when he described it as a lot of earned moral currency that has just all been used up. And I think this really does actually explain what is going on in what has become a kind of dueling GoFundMes with Shiloh Hendricks and Carmelo Anthony. So let's just listen to this for a minute.
Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You're approaching a country that, forget hating black people or not hating black people, they just don't care. You can be talking about affirmative action, they can be like, I don't care. It literally is of no importance to me. I don't care about slavery. I don't care about segregation. I don't care about you. I don't care how many of you all go to jail. I don't care at all, because I'm broke.
So I don't think I think that for a large portion of white America, he is right on that. I think a lot of them just aren't bothered and are just getting on with their lives and just don't think.
I didn't know. I hadn't heard from Aaron Magruder in many, many, many years. My mother loved the Boondocks. She loved it. It was one of her favorite comic strips. And that was the first thing that she would read when the paper would arrive. And the first comic that she would read was the Boondocks. And she loved Aaron Magruder. And Aaron Magruder, luckily, quit while he was ahead and went out and did other stuff. And I thought that was a very... I thought that was a very interesting quote, and I'm glad that Sargon dug it up.
Think about it. And the moral currency that the black community in America built up because of the history of slavery was a powerful thing, and I think mostly got spent during the 20th century. And the actions that spent this moral currency, were not great. And I think actually there are moral questions about the general ethical norms of this community that really are worth digging into.
You know, I realized today that I made an error in yesterday's live stream when I said that this goes back 5 years. No, it goes back actually, I think, to the 1990s. We can go all the way back to the aftermath of the Rodney King case and the LA riots. Reginald Denny being dragged out of his truck and having a cinder block, I think, thrown at his head. Then we can go on to the O.J. Simpson case and the aftermath of that. And, you know, we can continue onwards from there. But, I mean, it's only been exacerbated, this rift, over the past, you know, since George Floyd, primarily because of social media. And I shudder to think what would have happened if there had been social media in the age of Rodney King and OJ. I shudder to think. What happened was bad enough, but now it's much, much, much worse. Let's continue.
I think Aaron is essentially what he's doing in The Boondocks, actually, which is a much bigger conversation that I don't really want to get into now. But I think we can just take him at face value. This is a question of moral currency, because there are lots of people who have decided that actually the acts that were that spent the moral currency the black community had built up actually expired. The currency is gone, and yet the acts remain, and so the acts are actually now building up a debt on the part of the black community, and this is the sort of reason why. When a black guy kills a white guy and black people raise him $500,000,
right,
with death to the white man attached to their donations, then I think that builds up resentment.
I think that
builds up kind of anger that this is a two-tier system.
Yep.
This is not fair, and the debt from a lot of white people's perspective was paid long ago and with interest. And so they're not shy about supporting Shiloh Hendricks because of this. And then you get the kind of bourgeois, snooty, looking down the nose perspective, which is, well, she's white trash. It's like, okay, maybe, but she's still part of their tribe. And so it doesn't really matter if she's white trash. What matters?
Well, no, it's not just being part of the tribe. It's also, I mean, the donations that were made to that woman were like the equivalent of a protest vote. I don't think that woman should have gotten a dime. I don't think that the kid's family, the kid being the child that Shiloh Hendricks screamed at, I don't think they should have gotten any money. I don't think Carmelo Anthony should have gotten any money. I don't think that Luigi Mangione should have gotten any money. I'm an equal opportunity critic. I don't think that murderers should get money from the public. That is my strong feeling. And I don't think that acting like an asshole in public should result in this ridiculous amount of money that is poured into this woman. And it is absolutely an outpouring of anger. And so instead of, let's say, rioting and burning down businesses and, you know, engaging in mayhem in the streets, people decided to go to Give, Send, Go and donate money instead. That is the equivalent of the riots. That's what we're looking at. Now, again, I don't agree with giving this woman money, and I am vehemently opposed to rioting because you know that I absolutely despise public political violence. But that is the analogy that I can come up with. This is an online riot. That's all it is. And I'm sorry that this woman was the recipient of so much largesse that she did not deserve.
Matters to people is the fact that this is a racial issue that is born out of the history of America. And it's not that there shouldn't be moral currency that comes out of slavery. It's just that shouldn't be parlayed into the ability to act in morally abhorrent ways and then find yourself with a very large, very well-funded, and very powerful group of backers that will cover up for this kind of behavior.
Right.
And so people are just like, you know what, I don't care. I don't care if she's a single mother, a meth head, a sex worker, or whatever.
Right.
I don't care. That's not what this is about. Now, I did see that Shiloh had posted a message to someone saying, no, I'm not a single mother. I've got a husband or a boyfriend or whatever it is. We've got 2 kids. He's the father of my children. She was just a mum taking her kids to the park where they were filmed by a Somali alleged sex offender.
Right.
Because why wouldn't he be hanging out at the park? So I think that it's important to note that, look, for a lot of people, this just doesn't matter. That's not what this is about.
Yeah. You know what? It didn't matter to the people who donated in the same way that whatever Trump was convicted of and whatever Trump did in the past did not matter to the people who voted for him. And before everybody goes crazy and starts talking about racism and shit like that, it didn't matter also to the Latinos that voted for him. It didn't matter to the blacks that voted for him. It didn't matter to the Jews that voted for him. So, you know, all these idiots who went out onto Twitter to rend their garments the day after the election to blame white women for Trump getting back in office, they were wrong. It was a rainbow coalition, and I did notice how quickly those so-called allies, which is why you cannot trust a single person that describes themselves as an ally. Never, ever, ever trust these people. They will turn against you, just like Hassan and iDubbbz and all those people turned against Ethan Klein, right? And the way that these so-called left-wing or progressive communities immediately turned on the Latino community, and started saying things like, well, I hope you get deported, to Latinos who had been born in the United States and were full citizens. So the mask came off and they let the racism go, directed at the Latino community. It was very revealing, and it didn't surprise me, but it was still disgusting. What did surprise me was how little time it took for these people to go mask off.
And I think that this person actually is saying something true, or at least something they perceive to be true. Every person donating to Shiloh does so remembering their encounter with a misanthropic black individual, be it in businesses, sports, serving them on a bus, on a plane, on a boat, at a store, at a school, at a park. DMV, she just said the quiet part out loud. And I think it's hard to say that there isn't a great deal of resentment built up in the black community against white people.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's obviously the case.
Of course.
And I think that that's something the black community itself has to deal with. I don't think white America can get rid of this racial hatred.
Right.
At some point, the black community has to have a conversation about this, because there are lots of black people who are just very angry about this.
Yep.
And lots of them took to TikTok and, well, we're inciting violence. Just, I hope she gets hurt. I'm going to go and urinate on her grave when someone murders her, which, I mean...
Hi, Jen. Long time no see.
If this was something going against the left,
congratulations.
stochastic terrorism.
Muy bien, Jen.
And so, actually, she probably
Buena
is
suerte.
in a degree of danger. And, of course, you have all of the usual race grifters whose entire careers are built on maintaining this hostile divide between the black and white community in America, and inciting angry and resentful people from within one community to not feel guilty about doing bad things to the other. And they are, of course, politicizing this and saying, well, look, see, this is just what they do. This is how they make America great again. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's helpful at all.
It isn't.
And like I said in the first video I did on this, I don't think Shiloh was in the right. I don't think you should be saying ethnic slurs to children, of all people, if anyone at all.
And I'm also, I would like to see proof, not that this mitigates what happened. The woman popped off, somebody filmed her, and the rest is history. But I would like to see evidence that this kid was 5 years old and autistic. Because this seems to be a talking point that is circulated all over social media. Everybody believed it at face value. I want to see proof. I don't know if that was a story that was made up by the alleged sex offender who was in the park with the kids in order to gin up sympathy for the family. And the family has done very well on Give, Send, Go as well, by the way. So everybody cashed in on this bullshit. But I'm just saying, just for my own benefit, I would like to see proof that this kid is exactly who they say he is. Because saying the kid is 10 is still awful, but saying that he's 5 and autistic, what a monster, right? Sure. Again, I completely disavow what this woman did, and I think that anybody who donated to her is insane. However, it exposed something about America, and depending on who you are, I remember Scott Adams said back in 2016, America is like, it's like a movie theater, and we're watching the same movie, but we're watching it on 2 different screens. And so the audience that's in one theater sees something and they interpret it differently than the audience that sees it in another theater. And I thought that was a very interesting way of looking at things. So anyway, it's gotten way past that point now. Way past that point. Let's continue.
You might be like, well, that's coming from you, but things change, right? But like I said before, I'm not going to condemn her for it, because this is not like the original starting point of racism and the issue itself, which I think the author of the Boondocks has accurately pointed out. And so it's not wrong for black people to say, well, look, calling a black child a slur and becoming rich, society is cooked. Well, yeah, that's bad. But murdering a white teenager and also becoming rich, and that happened first.
See, I'm sorry, but no matter how much people complain about Shiloh Hendricks, no matter what people say about her, whether it is justified, over the top, whatever, and the more that they complain about how much money that woman has raised, the automatic default position, and I know it's whataboutery, and that's usually a really bad debating tactic, people are going to go to this guy's Give, Send, Go and know that he killed somebody in cold blood, unprovoked, as far as we know, because we haven't seen any evidence to the contrary. And there is no way that you can mitigate the impact of the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser. You can't. You can't do it. Because when you put one next to the other, there is no comparison for the reasons that the money was raised. The casus belli, if you will.
I think the society had some serious problems to begin with, don't you? I mean, I actually think that what Shiloh has done is way worse than what Carmelo has done. Sorry, the other way around. What Carmelo has done is way worse than what Shiloh has done. And again, I think the way that the black community responded to that is way worse.
I agree.
Than the way that these white people are responding to Shiloh. So I mean,
agree.
Yeah, I agree. The society is cooked, but like, who was putting out the hand of friendship first, right, is the question. Which community is it that nurtures the deepest race grievance against the other? And this actually demands a bit of introspection. I mean, on the part of both communities.
And I will say, like I said yesterday, for those of you who didn't hear the end of my stream, that I feel a lot of empathy and a lot of pity for the sane members of the Black community who are too afraid to say anything, who are too afraid, just like with OJ, exactly like when OJ was on trial, the people who were too afraid to come out and say with their whole chest, I think OJ is guilty, I think he did it. I think the evidence against him is overwhelming, means, motive, and opportunity. And whatever clown show the defense attorneys put on with Mark Furman and, these Innocence Project guys questioning the DNA results and Dr. Henry Lee and all that, I think that the guy did it. He had a history of being violent towards his wife. He was a very jealous man. The physical evidence was overwhelming. When Nicole was killed, the dog did not bark, meaning that it's highly likely that the dog knew the person who killed Nicole and then Ron Goldman. I mean, we don't have to go over all the details, but there were a lot of people in the Black community who had to wait years before they could come out and say publicly, I think he did it. Because to come out and say he did it at the time was considered to be pretty much an act of treason. So I feel a great deal of sympathy for members of the Black community now who are too afraid to come out and say that kid was out of control. What he did was unconscionable. And there is nothing that can persuade me that it was justified apart from if Austin Metcalf had taken out a knife and threatened him first. Like literally threatened his life. So we know you're out there. We know you're out there, sane, responsible, level-headed members of the Black community. We know you're there. And we'll be waiting to hear from you. And we understand why it is that you're not speaking out.
But I think if there's one thing you can't say, it's that the whites community in America hasn't tried to be anti-racist enough. They definitely have. And all that did was allowed race grifters from within your own community to pour hatred about white people on a daily basis without it being policed. So that now there are Black people saying, look, I just hope she's murdered. And it's like, that's a bit extreme, Dave. But also, it's something that might actually happen, which is not good. So the reason I say all of this is because it's not like there aren't Black people who say something very similar. They're aware of the crime rates. And we'll just watch this video by a Black chap who moved to a white neighborhood, and he can tell us why.
I don't know what Black people are talking about. Our neighborhoods are safe. You want to go live next to, you want to go shopping at some Black businesses? Go ahead. I'm Black. I live here. Okay? I live in this HOA protected community. My neighbor over here, he just got the $80,000 truck the other night. I'm not worried about it because he knows we all got guns here. We will pull some shit out on your ass. You walk up over here looking like you don't belong. Why the fuck would I want to live in a ghetto? Are you out your goddamn mind? I don't feel safe around my own people. Are you fucking kidding me? Never. I live in white America because this is where I'm safe. I'm safe here. Have a good day, fucking Black unity.
And along those lines, I've told this story before about Washington, D.C., but that Washington is, I think it still is a majority Black city, although the white population has increased significantly. And that the life beat, the heartbeat of DC is still go-go music. Go-go music is cherished by DC natives and by others, people who live in the area. And there was a brief period of time in the mid-'80s where go-go started to get more exposure, and record labels were developing an interest in it. And so go-go bands didn't just have to play in clubs in, Northeast, Southeast, whatever. And they started getting booked in what you could call, quote unquote, white clubs, right? And I remember I was talking to a member of Trouble Funk, which is one of my favorite bands. I've seen Trouble Funk more than any other band ever. And I was talking to one of the members, and he was telling me that Trouble Funk had gotten to a point where they only wanted to play the white clubs. I mean, they would still play, the parks, that were known, Fort DuPont or, some of the other clubs around DC, but that they preferred playing at the white clubs because go-go had developed around it a culture that was extremely violent. And that was when the crack epidemic was going on, and also Love Boat, which is PCP, was gaining in popularity, and they felt that the security at the white clubs was better than the security at the black clubs. And so they, of course, didn't want to get hurt themselves, but they also didn't want their fans getting hurt. They just wanted people to come and dance. And I thought that was pretty eye-opening. I was shocked, actually. I couldn't believe it. And it wasn't just that they were glad that they were appealing to different audiences. It was a matter of safety. It was a matter of danger. It was a matter of weapons being brought in, drugs, different gangs airing out their beefs, women getting attacked. And so this goes way back. Way back. And I know that there are people who don't like that reality, but that is an actual true story from Washington, D.C. history. So let's continue.
So the whole point he's making is, well, you can make any kind of appeal to the tribe that you like. Everyone has a tribe, just to be clear. But the virtues of the tribe have to warrant one's attachment to it as well. It's not just that, oh, well, they're one of ours. And this is what is underpinning the calling Shiloh white trash. That's people in the other tribe saying, well, I don't really want to stick my neck out for her because she doesn't really measure up to my standards. And I don't want to end up essentially like them. And so it's not wrong to say that it is basically the same thing, right? It's both sides now doing it. But what did you expect? Did you expect that one side would have an infinite supply of moral currency to do this destructive and engage in this destructive pattern of behavior forever until the other side didn't respond? I mean, I think that's just wishful thinking at best, to be honest. And I don't know how to properly have this conversation with Americans, but I can definitely see it as an outsider, right? Anyway, so Jacob Wells of Give Send Go.
And I do want to point out, as I've pointed out before, that BLM really screwed the pooch. They were given an opportunity to do something productive, and what they did was they pushed through all kinds of legislation to defund the police and ended up harming the community that they were meant to be protecting. BLM turned out to be a massive fraud. It was a way for money to be raised and embezzled and spent on luxuries. And the very residents that they claimed to be protecting, whose side they claimed to be on, rebelled in Oakland and in San Francisco and said, no, I don't think so. We want the police to get more money, not less. We don't want to be left vulnerable. We're sick of the shoplifting. We're sick of the violence, car theft, all of it. So amazing. BLM fell into the same trap that a lot of these politicians fall into, which is why even question what it is that your supposed constituency wants. All that you know is what you want, and you're going to push it through. You're going to harm the people that you're meant to represent, and they're going to rebel against you. So much so that the NAACP went against BLM in Oakland. So, telling you, you should never, ever, ever ignore what the people are saying, even if you don't like the message that you're getting. Don't ignore it. Stop paying attention to social media and hashtags and shit, and listen to what the people on the ground are saying.
Co-founder said, look, we've disabled the comments on the fundraising campaigns of Carmelo Anthony and Shiloh Hendricks because there is an unacceptable volume of racist and derogatory remarks. Now, he hasn't deleted the fundraisers, right, which I think is an interesting decision to make, because it would actually be easier for them to deplatform them. It would avoid...
And by the way, I saw somebody said that the quartering said that they had taken Shiloh Hendricks's Give, Send, Go down. I don't think that's true. If the quartering said that, I think he's wrong. Because I didn't see any news reports on it. And if that had happened, then I think that we would see it everywhere, but I think he was wrong. The only thing that was taken down on these Give, Send, Goes was the comments under the donations.
Making this a nexus of the racial conflict that clearly underpins a lot of American society. But he hasn't done that. What he's done is decided that it would be better just to try and mitigate the amount of racism. Now, it is fair for people to point out that this is a double standard, because when it was Carmelo Anthony's campaign, he said, look, I don't like these either, which I'm sure he doesn't, obviously. But there's a little thing called free speech, and that's actually important in our country, and you should have seen the comments on the other campaigns, blah, blah, blah. And for this one, of course, he disabled it. But he disabled them both. And I think he probably does have a commitment to free speech, obviously. And I think that it's not actually about double standards here for him. I think it's about the worry that this becomes a nexus from which something bigger grows. And he's put on the horns of a dilemma, and it's not an easy one to come to a good conclusion on. Anyway, so the Carmelo Anthony Fund is at $521,000, and Shiloh's one is $557,000.
Both ridiculous. Now, this
and
is an
people are
old
saying,
video.
We've beaten them. Isn't that good? Well, I mean, if you look, Anonymous Giver 15 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago, 32 minutes ago,
There you
1 hour
go.
ago, 1 hour ago, this fundraiser had basically run out of steam until this began.
Exactly.
So now the black community is donating to it in competition with the Shiloh one, and it's become a kind of, again, dueling fundraisers.
The whole thing makes me sick.
Now, to be honest with you, I suspect that both Carmelo and Hendricks themselves have no doubt they need the money. I mean, actually, no, Carmelo probably doesn't need the money. But I'm skeptical about just giving your money, and people have given quite a lot to random people to whom viral flashpoints have happened.
I swear to God, anybody donating to any of these fundraisers, the families, this woman, Carmelo Anthony, Luigi, all of these, everybody who donated money should be ashamed of themselves. Everybody. It's disgusting. And then to turn it into like a meme online, absolutely gross. No way. Awful. Awful across the board. To see people who are so undeserving of this money, this kind of money, get showered in it for being an asshole or for being a killer. No. Something in society is completely, totally broken.
Right. I'm personally not encouraging this. Again, I'm not going to condemn anyone who has or anything like that, but I just don't think this is entirely wise. And, I mean, obviously only ever donate money if you can afford to donate money in the first place. But, so you've got, again, with Shiloh's fundraiser, people still very much fundraising in the moment now. And so you can see that this it's not going away. One community isn't giving way to another. And people are taking a victory lap saying, look, we've beaten the Carmelo Anthony one, we've outraised them, isn't that good? But I think people didn't realize that because I go on Blue Sky to see what the word is in the woke spheres. And they have this fundraiser at GoFundMe, which is help us seek racial justice for a 5-year-old facing racial hate.
There you go.
And they've got the picture of Shiloh there, and the NAACP are raising this money for the autistic 5-year-old. Sure, that's not an actual picture.
Really, I wonder if any of the money is going to actually end up going to that family. I didn't realize that it was the NAACP raising the money. Well, if it's them raising the money, then there's a better chance that the money will go to the family, as opposed to BLM raising the money, where you know that not a dime would go to that family. But nobody deserves money. Nobody. None of these people deserve money.
Picture of him, who she insulted. And so you can see this is getting lots of donations now and has raised $330,000.
Ridiculous.
So if this is a unitary ledger, then, well, to beat Carmelo and this one, you would have to raise about $850,000. Again, I'm not suggesting that you do give Shiloh another $300,000. I think
no.
that the $500,000 plus that she's been given will probably be sufficient. But this speaks to a much deeper issue.
Very
in
deep
American
issue.
Society. And honestly, it would be nicer if cooler heads prevailed, but of course that's not going to happen.
Nope.
And it would be nice if an honest conversation about the subject could be had.
Okay, so, Queen, you had mentioned that Sargon took you way back. It took me way back. He took me way back too. And if anybody in the chat is familiar with Sargon, I think that you might have noticed, or maybe you didn't notice, but I'll point it out anyway. You might have noticed how careful he was being with his language in that video. The old Sargon would have gone absolutely ham sandwich on this topic. The new Sargon is living in the United Kingdom in the age of Keir Starmer. And you can tell that he was pulling back on his language because I think that he is afraid to get arrested. He's afraid to get arrested because there is no more free speech in the United Kingdom. Not for people like Sargon. If you are Pakistani, if you are Muslim, if you are on the hard left, yeah, you can say and do whatever the fuck you want in England and the UK in general. If you are outside of that circle, you have to be very careful because you could be arrested for anything and put in jail for unreasonable lengths of time for an ill-thought-out tweet or a Facebook post or misgendering someone or something like that. I mean, misgendering is probably out the door now because of the Supreme Court decision. But it's very, very scary times in the UK right now. And I thought that it was interesting to watch Sargon and to listen to his tone. And I'm sad about that. I'm very sad about it. And I hope the UK returns to sanity sooner rather than later. All right, you guys. I've been at this for almost 2.5 hours, which is very, very long for me. So I'm going to hop off stream. And I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the donations. I would like to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And drop me a like. Share the stream if you want. And I will see you all the next time. Thank you, everybody. See ya next time.